My cheating husband and my childhood best friend stole my life, my home, and my business. 5 years later, I came back stronger and took everything back in revenge. After my husband cheated with my business partner, took over my business, and left me penniless, I spent 5 years plotting my revenge. 10 years ago, I, a 37-year-old woman, married Rob, a 40-year-old man, and we were married for 5 years before he ruined my life by cheating on me with my childhood friend and business partner, Melissa, a 36-year-old woman. He served me with divorce papers abruptly one day, told me about his affair, and turned my world upside down in one go. Not only that, but with the divorce I lost everything because in their eyes he took over the business I had built from scratch with my best friend. Neither of them looked back even once to check if I was all right. He took the house, the car, and my business, leaving me with no money. I was devastated that Melissa and Rob, the two most special people in my life, had ruined my life in the worst possible way. I was depressed for almost a year and thought about ending things several times but never worked up the courage to actually go through with it. Today, I'm thankful for that. My parents took me back in and helped me get back on my feet. They pushed me to go to therapy, talk about my feelings, and fight my depression so that I could bounce back. And I did. It's been 5 years since my divorce, and I'm as happy as can be now, but that doesn't mean I've forgotten what they did to me. I haven't forgotten, and I most certainly haven't forgiven. I blocked them everywhere after my divorce, but I still kept tabs on their lives and what they had been up to. 2 years after our divorce, they married each other and now even have a 3-year-old son. I wish I could say I'm happy for them, but I'm not. This was the life I was supposed to have, but they stole it from me. Even the business that my husband stole from me is doing well, and I could never bring myself to forget about any of it. For 5 years, I kept track of their lives and planned to bring them down, to put them in the same position they had put me in. All those years ago, I continued to work, but at the same time, I kept planning to bring them down somehow. A few months ago, I finally put my plan into action. For the past 5 years, I had been studying my old business and making a list of all their new business associates and investors. They had grown a lot since my divorce and were doing exceptionally well. Using my research, I waited long enough, and now I thought it was finally time to do what I had intended for so long. For some context, my friend Pam, a 50-year-old woman who is a long-standing steward of the industry, also plays a huge role here. When I first started working after my divorce, Pam was my first boss and mentor. She noticed I was struggling and did her best to help me out during that time and has stuck by me ever since. Recently, she quit her job and started her own business, asking me to be her partner, and I agreed readily. I also realized that now was finally the time to get back at my old friends. Pam and I approached all of Rob and Melissa's business associates and investors. Of course, everyone was super excited to work with Pam due to her reputation, but we had one condition. Nobody could continue their dealings with Melissa's business if they wanted to work with us. We weren't forcing anyone to stop working with them, but since it was a rival business anyway, and most importantly, I hated their guts, it was fair game. Most of their associates decided to work with us instead, so naturally they started losing clients and investors left and right. Along with the position of a partner, I also received a huge raise, and I was living a very comfortable life anyway, so I could afford to splurge on a phenomenal celebration of my revenge. I threw a party and invited my ex-husband, my ex-business partner, all their investors, and their business associates who were now working with us, though some had still remained loyal to Rob and Melissa. There were a lot of people, so I pulled out all the stops and made sure I used a different name. I used Pam's name on the invitations but left mine out, ensuring that Rob and Melissa would definitely show up. Not just people who were involved in the business, but all my old friends who believed my ex-husband's lies and had abandoned me were also invited to this huge party. Luckily, most of us worked in the same field, so it wouldn't be too odd for them to be invited to such a party. Even if it was, I knew nobody would miss the chance to meet Pam. She would be there as well, so it wasn't as if I was misleading anyone. Around 2 weeks ago, the party finally took place, and it went exactly according to plan. Everyone I invited had shown up, and so had Rob and Melissa, looking really pleased with themselves. I knew the smug smiles on their faces would be gone by the end of the evening. They probably thought the invitation meant Pam would be willing to strike a deal with them, and they'd recover from the losses they had been facing recently, but that was not the case at all. Pam made sure she greeted all the guests and was extra nice to Rob and Melissa just for the fun of it. I had no intention of greeting any of them until they had a few drinks in them. Around 2 hours later, when the party was in full swing, I finally decided to make an appearance. I wore the dress I had worn at my wedding after party, a classy black number, and jewelry that Melissa had gifted me. I wanted to ensure they recognized me as soon as I entered the room, which they did. People turned, but nobody seemed as shocked as Rob and Melissa. Their jaws almost hit the floor, and it was priceless. I walked right over to where they were standing and started talking to them casually while they struggled and fumbled with words. After a bit of small talk where I did most of the talking, I took center stage at the party and decided to make the killer speech I had been practicing for days. It was finally time. All eyes were on me, and I was going to end Rob and Melissa's career just as they had done to me. In my speech, I narrated the story of how Rob had cheated on me with my best friend Melissa and had wrongfully stolen the business that both of us had worked so hard to build, right from under my nose, while I could do nothing except sit and watch as they destroyed my life without even a hint of remorse. I didn't say their names, but most people in the room knew who I was talking about. I knew none of the people present had any idea about this, and I could see that most of them were really uncomfortable with what was being said. Then I started talking about Pam, and people began to ease up a little, and even clapped for us when we thanked them for attending. Most of them went back to partying and socializing, but my old friends left out of embarrassment. After my speech, I walked back to Rob and Melissa with the sweetest smile on my face, with Pam beside me, and asked them how they liked the party, with thrown especially for them. Melissa looked like she was going to throw her drink in my face or at least scream at me, but Rob had the good sense to drag her away that day. We ended the evening on a good note. By we, I mean Pam and I, because it was definitely not the best evening for Rob or Melissa. They probably realized they were done for because they didn't stand a chance against Pam. She's far more influential than them, and if it comes down to it, all of their business associates and investors are going to pick her over them. Since she's working with me, they'll never be able to work with her either, so they're basically screwed. Honestly, I've never been happier. This is what they deserve, at least in my opinion. Since then, Rob has tried his very best to speak to me and has sent me several emails, but I haven't read a single one of them. I'm too busy working, and now that I've gotten back at them for what they did, I hardly care what becomes of them. I told my parents about all of this a few days ago, but they didn't have the reaction I expected. I thought they'd be happy, for me, but instead, they seemed really disappointed. They told me I should have just stuck to working and shouldn't have sought to go after my ex just for revenge. They believe I should have been the bigger person and let this go since it had been 5 years after all. I got into a bit of an argument with them over it but couldn't change their mind. Now I don't know what to think. Maybe I was too petty, but I think they deserved what I did. They had to face the consequences of their actions someday, and now that I'm finally in a position to punish them and make them feel awful, why shouldn't I retaliate? I waited 5 long years for this, and I hate that my parents are taking this away from me by making me feel like the bad guy. Let's not forget that they literally ruined my life with their lies and left me penniless after the divorce. They took everything from me. I don't think I'm the bad guy here in the least. So, am I the asshole for screwing over my ex-husband and ex-business partner? Update 1. Okay, I'd just like to thank you all for being so exceptionally kind to me. I truly hadn't expected such an overwhelming response here, but I am thankful from the bottom of my heart for all the kind messages. I also felt like I had to clarify for those of you accusing me of befriending Pam for clout. That's not the case at all. I genuinely love and respect Pam, and we became friends quite organically. She met me at a really dark time in my life, and I will always be grateful for that. I did not make her my friend to move up the ladder or get revenge. When I met her, I was so depressed that my career or revenge were the last things on my mind. She brought me out of it, helped me find a therapist, and mentored me, and I'll always be thankful for that. She had always known about the reason behind my divorce, and was in on my plan all along. In fact, she helped me willingly and happily, so I didn't use her. We really are friends and always will be. If she hadn't been my friend, I might not have been able to get the revenge I wanted, but I would have found some other way. She just helped me along the way, and I'm grateful that she did. I hope I've made that clear to everyone saying they feel bad for Pam. Update 2. Hey guys, it's been 2 weeks since I came here, and I honestly didn't expect my post to gain so much traction, so thanks for that. Anyway, I'm here to share what happened a few days ago. As I said, most of their associates had started working with us, so they were in a bad position business-wise. Rob had sent me a bunch of emails, but I hadn't responded or even read any of them. I was too busy anyway, and I wasn't really interested in anything he had to say to me. At this point, nothing they said or did would make me forgive them, so why even bother? When I didn't respond, they decided to show up at our office to harass us instead. Pam had taken a sick day, so she wasn't in, and I had to talk to them on my own. It was honestly so exhausting. I could have had them thrown out, but I didn't want to cause a scene in front of my employees who had just been hired, so I decided to talk to them, though quite unwillingly. They didn't waste much time and told me they knew exactly what Pam and I had been telling everyone else, that we wouldn't work with them if they continued to deal with Rob and Melissa. They said they were facing heavy losses because of us and had lost a lot of business due to our condition. They wanted us to stop so they wouldn't be forced to take legal action against us. I almost laughed out loud when they said that because they were threatening to sue me for defamation, but I knew for a fact they were bluffing. If they decided to take us to court, it would be very likely to backfire on them. They knew very well that they had snatched the business I built unfairly and had lied their way into taking control. If I had the resources I do now, I wouldn't have lost my business to them in the first place. But now, I don't want it back either, and neither do I want them back in my life in any capacity. I told them that suing me would spell trouble for them as well, and while it's a free country and they can do whatever they want, they should also be prepared for the consequences. I wasn't trying to pick a fight with them, so I kept my cool and spoke to them as politely as I could. They knew what I was referring to and realized threatening me with a lawsuit wasn't going to faze me, so they switched tactics almost instantly and tried to blackmail me. Yes, that's right. They had the audacity to do that to me while sitting in my office. They told me they could very well spread the same lies and rumors they had the first time, and this time, I had even more to lose than I did before. For a second, I couldn't believe they had the guts to say that to my face, so I stared at them in disbelief. I was furious and really close to kicking them out myself, but chose to deal with it in a civilized way. I said they had 3 minutes to clear out, or I'd call security. They obliged and walked out, but warned me yet again that they wouldn't shy away from using the same tactics to ruin my career that they had the first time around. They told me I had a week to think about it and let them know what I wanted to do. I could either choose to be their friend or be their enemy and suffer the consequences. Their words, not mine. It's been a couple of days since then, and I haven't heard from them. I know it's not over yet, though. I absolutely cannot believe their audacity. Ruining my life once wasn't enough. They're back again to put me through it all over again. But this time, it won't be that easy. I have a stronger support system now and, not to mention, a ton of money that I didn't have back then. The evidence was stacked against me back then since they had everyone on their side, but that's not the case anymore. I'm the big fish in the pond now, so they're the ones who need to watch their backs. I haven't told Pam about this yet since she's really sick, and I don't want her to worry about this as well. But I have been in talks with our lawyer, who doesn't think I have anything to worry about and believes going up against us is inevitably going to end badly for them. So that's some consolation. If they try to talk to me again, I'll definitely have them thrown out, which is what I should have done the first time around. I'm kicking myself for not having them escorted out when they first came to meet me, but oh well, I can't change the past. I also wanted to appear calm and professional in front of our new employees. So I think what I did was the best move in that situation, but the first should have known that Rob and Melissa would do everything in their power to keep their business afloat. After all, they worked really hard to steal it from me. I know I have nothing to worry about, but I'm just so mad that they're even trying to mess with me right now. That party should have been the last lesson they needed, but I guess it wasn't enough for them. I just hate their guts and wish nothing but the worst for them. Honestly, I won't be the bigger person, and I'm not sorry. Update 3. I told Pam about everything that happened regarding Rob and Melissa today. Tomorrow will mark a week since I met them last, and the time they had given me to come to a conclusion will end. I'm not really scared of whatever they're planning to pull since Pam has told me that if they try anything funny at all, we're going to file a lawsuit against them. The only reason we're even avoiding it right now is that it's just too much hassle. Our business has just been established, and we truly don't have the time or energy to waste on irrelevant people like Rob and Melissa. So I'm going to wait until tomorrow, and if they try to take things further, then we'll screw them over legally. I also spoke to my parents today. We hadn't talked much since the last argument we had, where they told me that what I had done was not okay. We had been a little distant since then. I mean, we were still talking to one another, but the energy was all off, and I felt awful about it. They told me they were in town last evening, so I decided to go meet them. I did have a ton of work to catch up on, but I kept it all aside so I could spend some much-needed time with them. I wanted to clear the air between us since my parents mean the world to me, and I hated fighting with them, especially because of Rob and Melissa. I didn't want to fight with my parents over them. So I went out with them for dinner and drinks, and we had a long chat about why I did what I did. I explained my side of the story to them and told them that my divorce had absolutely destroyed me emotionally, and they had witnessed it firsthand, so they were the last people who should have been telling me I overreacted, which is why the argument got so heated in the first place. They told me they understood where I was coming from, and even apologized for making me feel like I had been in the wrong. They explained that they just wanted me to move on with my life and make the most of it, so they didn't like the fact that I had invited them back into my life, because it just meant inviting more trouble. They didn't think revenge was ever worth it, and I guess they were right. It felt good for a few days, but then the happiness and thrill of revenge wore off, and now I don't feel like it was necessary because I have to deal with them again. So I totally understood what my parents meant, but the world would be a really boring place if humans always acted logically. Anyway, I sorted things out with my parents, and we ended up having a lot of fun yesterday. It was totally worth it, and I feel considerably better and more confident about myself now. I'm hoping that Rob and Melissa do what's best for them and leave me the hell alone, because I've honestly been having a great run at work and in my personal life, and I don't want them ruining my streak of good days. But I will count it as a good day if the opportunity to kick them out of my office and humiliate them presents itself, and I really hope it does. Update 4. Hey there, it's been a while, but I've also been really busy. Life's been nothing but chaotic lately, but it's the good kind of chaos for the most part. Our business is doing really well, and we couldn't be happier about it. Pam and I have put our heart and soul into this, so it's like watching your baby do well in life, and we're really proud of what we've managed to accomplish and how far we've come. I don't mean to brag, but I'm especially proud of myself and thankful to myself for never giving up, not even at my lowest. If I had, maybe I wouldn't be here to witness my own success. I'm also really grateful for my parents, and of course, Pam. They're all the support I need. We've also decided to file a lawsuit against Rob and Melissa to take back the business they had stolen from me. They had tried spreading lies about me once more, but luckily, this time, I was the one in power. Even my parents now believe I should take back what rightfully belongs to me. When they were served, Melissa came to my office, crying and screaming about how I couldn't do this to her. She knew she didn't stand a chance anymore. They had only won the last time because I was powerless, but she should have known the truth would come out someday. She tried to emotionally manipulate me by reminding me that she had been an equally important part of that business when we first started, but it didn't make a difference to me. Yes, I had really good memories of working with Melissa, but all of them meant nothing since the only memory that stood out now was of her taking away my life's work with my husband. They left me broken and didn't look back, so now I don't owe them anything either. I had security drag her out, and we haven't spoken since then. I have the truth on my side, so I'm not too worried about what's going to happen now. I just hope things continue to go well for me as they have been so far. People have been exceptionally kind to me, and I really am thankful for that. This has made me realize that I have more supporters than I could ever imagine, and I'm truly grateful. The lawsuit against Rob and Melissa became the central focus of my life in the weeks following my last update. Pam and I, along with our lawyers, spent countless hours preparing our case, gathering evidence, and ensuring every detail was airtight. It wasn't just about reclaiming the business they stole from me, it was about holding them accountable for the lies they spread and the life they shattered. I knew this process would be grueling, but I felt ready. For the first time in years, I had the resources, the support, and the confidence to face them head-on. My parents, who had initially disapproved of my pursuit of revenge, now stood firmly by my side, especially after learning about Rob and Melissa's recent attempts to blackmail me. They saw how determined I was to take back what was rightfully mine, and their encouragement gave me an extra boost of strength. The legal proceedings began about a month ago, and the courtroom was a battlefield. Rob and Melissa's lawyer tried to paint them as victims, claiming I was using my newfound influence with Pam to sabotage their business out of spite. It was infuriating to hear their twisted version of events, but I stayed calm. Our lawyer presented a mountain of evidence, including old business records, emails, and testimonies from former colleagues who knew the truth about how Rob and Melissa had manipulated the situation to take control of my company. I even found an old contract that clearly outlined my role as the primary founder, which they had conveniently ignored during the divorce. Watching their faces as our lawyer dismantled their defense was almost as satisfying as the party I had thrown. During the trial, I had to testify about the emotional toll their actions took on me. Reliving those dark days in front of a room full of strangers wasn't easy. I spoke about the depression, the betrayal, and the way my life crumbled when they took everything I had worked for. I didn't hold back, and by the time I finished, the room was silent. Even the judge seemed moved. Pam was there every step of the way, squeezing my hand during the toughest moments. Her presence reminded me that I wasn't alone anymore, and that made all the difference. After weeks of back and forth, the court ruled in our favor. The judge ordered Rob and Melissa to return full ownership of the business to me, along with a substantial financial settlement for the damages caused by their actions. It was a victory, but it didn't feel like the end. I knew they wouldn't go down quietly. Sure enough, A few days after the ruling, Melissa sent me a long, emotional email. She begged for forgiveness, claiming she had been misguided by Rob and that she never meant to hurt me so deeply. She even mentioned their son, saying he deserved a stable future and that my actions were tearing their family apart. For a moment I felt a pang of guilt, but then I remembered how they had shown me no mercy when I was at my lowest. I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded the email to our lawyer, who advised me to keep it as evidence in case they tried anything else. With the business back in my hands, I faced a new challenge, deciding what to do with it. Part of me wanted to run it again, to rebuild what I had lost and make it even better than before. But another part of me hesitated. That business was tied to so many painful memories, and I wasn't sure I wanted to carry that baggage into my future. Pam and I had already built something incredible together, and our new venture was thriving. After a long conversation with her, we decided to merge the old business with our current one, keeping the best parts of what I had created while letting go of the pain associated with it. It felt like a fresh start, a way to honor my past without being defined by it. As the dust settled, I took some time to reflect on everything that had happened. The revenge I had sought for so long had been satisfying in the moment, but my parents were right. It didn't bring lasting peace. The real healing came from rebuilding my life, finding new purpose, and surrounding myself with people who genuinely cared about me. Pam, my parents, and even some old friends who had reached out to apologize after the party became my rock. I realized that holding on to anger had kept Rob and Melissa in my life far longer than they deserved. Letting go didn't mean forgiving them, it meant freeing myself from their shadow. One evening I went out for dinner with my parents again, and we talked about the future. They were proud of how far I had come, but they also reminded me to focus on what made me happy, not just what made me feel vindicated. I admitted that the thrill of revenge had faded, and what I really wanted now was to live a life full of joy and purpose. They smiled, and my mom said something that stuck with me. You've already won, not because you beat them, but because you didn't let them break you. That hit me hard, and I realized she was right. The best revenge wasn't the party or the lawsuit. It was the life I was building now. A few weeks later, I heard through the grapevine that Rob and Melissa had moved to another city, likely to start over after their business collapsed. Part of me hoped they would find some kind of redemption, not for their sake, but because I didn't want to carry any more hatred in my heart. I had spent too many years consumed by it and I was ready to let it go. I didn't wish them well, but I didn't wish them harm either. They were no longer my problem. Meanwhile, our business continued to grow, and Pam and I were approached by new investors who believed in our vision. We expanded our team, hired some incredible talent, and even started mentoring young entrepreneurs. Something that brought me unexpected joy. Sharing my story with them, not just the successes but the struggles, felt like a way to turn my pain into something meaningful. I also started volunteering at a local organization that supports women going through difficult divorces, offering them the kind of guidance and support I wish I had when I was at my lowest. It wasn't about erasing the past, but about using it to help others. Looking back, I'm grateful for every step of this journey, even the painful ones. The betrayal, the loss, and the years of plotting revenge shaped me into the person I am today, stronger, wiser, and unafraid to stand up for myself. I don't regret what I did to Rob and Melissa. They made their choices, and I made mine. But I've learned that true victory isn't about tearing others down. It's about building yourself up no matter how many times life tries to knock you down. I'm not the same woman who was left penniless and broken 10 years ago. I'm someone new, someone who knows her worth and isn't afraid to fight for it. And for the first time in a long time, I'm excited to see what the future holds.